Bob never found a conspiracy theory he didn't like. Bob, not his real name, craves hearing how malevolent groups hatch secret, unlawful, harmful plans for evil, destructive purposes. He visualizes the selfish elites planning horrible misdeeds that cause suffering for billions of humans, or rather pain for all moving and non-moving living entities. Bob doesn't have the means or the intellectual integrity to confirm such stories. He gobbles them up whole, unexamined, and immediately spreads them around, hoping to build himself up as some sort of alternative authority figure. Here, we'll analyze what may drive Bob and others to collect and circulate conspiracy theories, especially in times of crisis and uncertainty. Sometimes there's a political motive. Consider recent events like the July 13th assassination attempt on former President Trump's life, just about an hour north of my hometown of Pittsburgh. Because politics is always about blaming the other party, and because political propaganda rarely deals with verified truth, even before the details came out surrounding the shooting, later on the same day, this electronic sign on a truck was seen driving around town and was programmed accusing, quote, Democrats, end quote, of the deed. 2 days later, on Monday, when Jon Stewart sits in as a weekly host of his Daily Show, he explained when events like this happen in this country.
When shit hits the fan in this country, the internet is a great source of information. For instance, within minutes, I found out that this is staged. And then I found out that it was actually an inside job. And then I found out that it was Joe Biden who ordered it. And then I found out that this guy is the shooter. Great job, internet, you did it. Except it turns out that that guy is an Italian football commentator named Marco Violi.
Obviously, most of the information found on the internet is misinformation. And because people like Bob click on various links that are fed to them by social media algorithms, they often become victims of misinformation. In 2020, David Robson, author of The Intelligence Trap, writes in his article, quote, Why Smart People Believe Coronavirus Myths, end quote. Quote, from student to politicians, many smart people have fallen for dangerous lies spread about the new coronavirus. Why? End quote. Robson continues, quote, It is a sad truth that any health crisis will spawn its own pandemic of misinformation, end quote. In 2020, during the coronavirus pandemic, we saw an inundation of fake news. From Facebook to WhatsApp, frequently shared misinformation includes everything from what caused the outbreak to how you can prevent becoming ill. Sometimes the misinformation can become political when leaders of a political party spread them. For instance, the former president's endorsement of bleach, ultraviolet rays, or ivermectin, the horse dewormer. Sometimes such ideas are deadly. Quote, a recent report from one province in Iran found that most people had died from drinking industrial-strength alcohol based on a false claim that it could protect you from COVID-19 than from the virus itself, end quote. Bob, like many of us, is constantly bombarded with input all day, every day, and can't validate what is true and what is false, even when he would like to. Therefore, he relies on his fallible gut feeling. Bob is also victimized by the tricks communicators use to make their message feel more, quote, truthy, end quote. For instance, Ian Newman at the Australian National University has shown that simply putting an image alongside a message makes it easier for Bob to believe the accuracy of the message. Quote, even a simple repetition of a statement, end quote, David Robson explains, quote, whether the same text or over multiple messages can increase the, quote, truthiness, end quote, by increasing feelings of familiarity, which we mistake for factual accuracy, end quote. Underdogs adore conspiracy theories. As Roger Cohen writes in the New York Times, quote, captive minds resort to conspiracy theory because it is the ultimate refuge for the powerless. If you cannot change your own life, it must be that some greater force controls the world, end quote. Which brings us to the next possible motivator. Sex. Not the physiological skin-rubbing variety. No, the subtle type. Quote, sex desire, end quote, Srila Prabhupada writes, quote, is summarized in 3 headings, namely, profit, adoration, and distinction, end quote. Srimad Bhagavatam 2.2.12. The drive to be different, to be something more than others, to stand out for something, anything, even if that something is just piggybacking an outlandish internet theory. Srila Prabhupada adds, quote, all conditioned souls are mad after these different forms of sex desire, end quote. Therefore, Bob climbs the pedestal of the truly out-of-the-box thinker and valiantly informs the world of his momentous top-secret discoveries. Isn't it a fact, Bob, that you don't really care if the message is accurate? What you care about is the number of likes or retweets, minuscule sparks of distinction in your otherwise mediocre life. Every single crisis or tragedy is a golden opportunity, a blessing for his ego. It's his time to shine, his shot at being somebody. It's his chance to stand as the torchbearer of inconvenient truths, the chance to shake off his monumental insignificance, to challenge his abysmal social status. He also rejects anything and everything that in the standard media as false and misleading, plotted by covert evil elites bent on conquering and exploiting the world, end quote. So, Bob takes sporadic precedence as his blanket, universal evidence for doubting any and all, quote, official versions, end quote. A priori, he distrusts and rejects any and all statements by any and all authoritative bodies or appointed officials, be it the government, the World Health Organization, the United Nations, the police, the medical associations, or the Queen of England. For Bob, they are all out to mislead and entrap us. If a group of people strongly distrust the government or a group of leaders, anything they do will raise suspicion, end quote. And so, if you don't like the president of the country, the minister of health, the pope, or a particular political party, you will always believe that there is something sinister behind what they say or do. As I have come to learn from my own experience, to be a conspiracy theorist is actually a very distinct and destructive perversion of a genuine spiritual life. There is a thin line between genuine, serious curiosity at discovering the hidden matrix of our collective living experience and becoming a damaged soul whose paranoia becomes a stone obstacle to love and liberty, end quote. Hunting for conspiracies resembles spiritual inquiry. To be an avowed, unabashed conspiracy theorist, or even to just dabble in such foggy bottoms, is to insist that there is much more than meets the eye. Again, this resembles and reflects the consciousness of the genuine spiritual seeker. To the unsophisticated, dabbling in conspiracy myths may look like inquiry into the truth, but it's a different animal. Conspiracy theories, even if true or partially true, belong to the world of impermanence. They belong to the endless list of doomed attempts by conditioned souls to control and enjoy. A bunch of secretive guys in a smoke-filled room are not the lords of the world. The real lords of the world are the 3 modes of material nature, which are categorized in Vedic philosophy as the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance, which control the lives of everyone in conditional existence. These 3 material modes of nature are ultimately controlled by the supreme controller of everything, God. First of all, no conspiracy is unknown by or autonomous from God. Quote, God has eyes, end quote. He can see even in the darkness. God is in his kingdom, which is millions and millions of miles away. But if you are talking something, whispering conspiracy, he can hear, because he is sitting within you. God is intimately aware of all conspiracies, and he remains in control of their outcome, in control of the destiny of all conspirators. Reptilian colonialists do leave their bodies in pain and despair, like any non-reptilian Tom, Dick, and Harry. Bigfoots also sleep, eat, mate, and defend. Alien intergalactic explorers piloting hypersonic UFOs are also poor, pitiable, lost souls looking for love and permanent homes. And all members of the Bilderberg confraternity, with no exception, are sternly summoned several times a day to the toilet, compelled to answer undeferrable, inescapable calls of nature. The conditioned soul's attempt at dominating the world is only a mirage, a pathetic spectacle not really worthy of contemplation. It's not just a question of what's true and what's not among the narratives cropping up at every critical turn of this degraded age we're living in. The real question is one of emphasis, of focus. The real question is, do we want to spend our life researching conspiracy theories? Should the possible, probable, or implausible machinations of evil dudes absorb our waking consciousness? Would that truly help our spiritual progress? Should our mission in life be to uncover and broadcast such conspiracy theories? Should we spend our time surfing the net for ever more eccentric stories? No. But of course you, Bob, may see a conspiracy even behind this simple answer. Oh, Bob, you might have thought yourself a hero of unconventional communication, but could it be that you have been a victim of morbid, mundane curiosity? Please consider that you are not helping anyone find solid, permanent solutions. Could it be that you are just offering a disservice to the general public, diverting their mind to the ultimately irrelevant? As human beings, we can have the ability to think about more important things. So we have a responsibility to focus on that rather than becoming distracted by these shiny objects that divert our attention from self-realization. Those of us who are not bewildered by the illusory propaganda of conspiracy theories are tasked with diverting the attention of our brothers and sisters from the rabbit hole of illusory misinformation that they have fallen into to the reality of who they really are, what the world is, and what is our eternal relationship of service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead who controls these bewildering modes of nature, and ultimately how to rise above the modes so that we can escape this material world of samsara, repeated birth and death, and go back home, back to Godhead. For the past 45 years, I have followed the teachings of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who imported the Vedic science of Bhakti Yoga from his motherland of India to the West in the mid-60s. This knowledge has come down from a long line of teachers, practically from time immemorial, and his books are in the libraries of every major university in this country. It's based on a simple process of mantra meditation, recommended particularly for the degraded current age, that has been singled out as the only practical method of self-realization available for everyone. Sometimes, even practitioners of this bona fide system of mantra yoga have swayed from the path of spiritual discipline, victimized by the allurements of various conspiracy theories, as noted by a respected senior disciple of Srila Prabhupada named Charu Das, who built this beautiful temple in Spanish Fork, Utah, that hosts the traditional Indian, quote, colors festival, unquote, multiple times a year that has been popularized in the West. Here, Charu exhorts his godbrothers to stick to the real message from our exalted disciplic succession and stop wasting time on the internet researching conspiracy theories.
Training and disciplining the tongue, taking it away from gossip, from complaining, and hey, devotees, give me a break. Conspiracy theories? Really? Really? You're disciples of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, because he told you the truth, because he was totally honest and he delivered you the real medicine for becoming free from birth, death, disease, and old age. So how does someone who originally got into the devotional line because of the honesty and the integrity and the straightforwardness of Srila Prabhupada, how do they get distracted by all these conspiracy theories? Lakshmi and I agreed on our phone conversation yesterday that if these devotees would spend half the time knuckling down with their devotional practice they do on spinning out conspiracy theories, they would be back to home, back to Godhead.